Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks for coming by and taking a look at my video. I'm gonna look at the news and the nonsense that's going on. Starting Monday, I'm gonna go back to doing 2 videos a day. In part, it's that I destroyed my 3D printer. I bashed it into a billion pieces. It's because I just got frustrated. It's sort of a little history here. Jump ahead if you don't want to hear it. But I bought this thing, and I bought a cheap one, and it was also used from eBay. And I did that because it was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this or if I'm going to be able to figure it out or any of that. So cheap, make it even cheaper by being used, and then we'll take it from there, evaluate after I've had it for a while and see where to go from there. And I like it. I like it a lot. I have a lot of plans on using this thing. But I think that maybe the reason why this guy sold it was because he did something to it and it is not operating correctly. I was able to fix some of the things. And I think this because I asked him, why was he getting rid of it? What was wrong with it? And did he do any upgrades? He said nothing was wrong with it. He mentioned like one upgrade, and he said he had too many 3D printers. None of that makes sense. If you like 3D printers and you have a whole bunch of them, then why would you want to get rid of one? It would have made more sense if he'd said something like, I really enjoy it. I only have so much room though. I bought a newer one that's better than this one. It's fitting my needs in some way, and so this is the one that has to go that's not fitting my needs that I'm wanting to do. It's like that would have made more sense. And whenever I got it, he did several upgrades. He upgraded the Bowden tube. He had the software for a BL Touch on it, which wasn't on it. And he had something else. And then there were problems like it has an automatic stop sensor whenever you run out of filament, which didn't work. So, and then the fan, one of the fans started to make noises. And it's like, I got furious with it. I've got a rage monster inside of me because of my childhood. I've got anger issues, trust issues, relationship issues. And it's been a while since I've been that angry, and it feels good in a way because I think it has to do with letting it all out, and it's just kind of this big relief. But at the same time, over the years, it has also come with more and more a feeling of disappointment that I let it come down to this. And I guess it would have to be something like I need to find a better way to release all of this. So, but it's because I bought a second Z axis for it so that it would be even, and it was wrong because you couldn't find one for this printer because of its unique size. And all the videos were wrong. They talked about bed leveling, and it's not that. It's supposed to be parallel to each other. That's because if you live in a house, which 95% of you do, it's not level, and so your bed's going to be uneven. And if you try to level the arm, then it's going to be off, and you want them to be the same. You want them to be parallel to each other. So I don't know how they got off on that. And whenever I figured that problem out, that helped a lot. And I couldn't figure out why my prints were ending up so bad. I took the second Z-axis off, and that helped. And then I realized, I got to looking at those stupid things have to be perfectly straight up and down. And that the second one that I put on, for some reason, I guess so you could adjust it, but it didn't put it anywhere, so that was odd. But there's this brass fitting that's on the black metal bracket that it has 2 screws and it's loose. And I had to push mine forward and to the right so that it would be parallel and work right. And I couldn't get one print to go at all, and that BL stupid touch kept blinking in an error message, and I couldn't figure out how to resolve it. I had issues with it, and it's like I'm just on the verge. And then I turned it on after leaving it off for a while because sometimes that would help. and that stupid fan started rocking, making that rocking noise or whatever, and it's just, I slammed that stupid thing to the ground and just tore it into pieces, and it's just like, that guy just screwed me over with it. You know, because it's like, I don't know, maybe he didn't. Because if there were problems with it, I don't know why he just wouldn't have put that in the description. Well, yeah, I do know why. It's because he was trying to sucker somebody into it. And it's like, yeah, maybe it was me. So I guess maybe I don't know, am I more upset with myself? No, because there's no way for me to know that, you know. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. So it's like, no, I don't know you, and so I don't know. So, but it's kind of a mixture of all that, and just, I guess, just not knowing for sure. I'm never going to have that answer. But I've already bought a new one. I did the order tonight. I destroyed my old one tonight, and I bought a new one. But this one is brand new. It's never been used, and I'll get it in a couple of days. And I'm just going to start off with the basics because it's like, I like it. I have made these boxes. I have several different types of them here, and I've figured out how to make a box for cards where the lid is also the discard pile where you can connect the two together. It's still not quite finished, but if I can refine that enough where it's more user-friendly, I don't see why I shouldn't be able to go off and trademark that and copyright it, make it my own thing, and actually sell these things where it's just my own little niche. And it started off just with the hobby. And I was able to do this because I did find videos and articles on the internet, on YouTube, and it was such a nightmare because there were so many. It's like attaching a BL Touch. There's like hundreds of videos on it, and so many of them are just absolute garbage. And you know you've found one that's garbage whenever they start talking about their day. Now, if they start talking about their channel and other things related to that channel, that's one thing. But whenever they're just talking about random nonsense about their day, it's like, shut the hell up, dude. It's like, I don't care about that. You're doing a instructional video, a how-to, so get to it. You know, and it's like that. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm not doing an instructional video how-to. I'm just here for some mild entertainment and some insight on, you know, what's going on with the world and the news by trying to give you a clear understanding of things without all the buzzwords, sorting through all the sickness of all this nonsense, because a lot of people just don't have that kind of time. It's like, you know, you got to go to work, you've got your friends, you've got your family, you got all this stuff, and this isn't one of your hobbies. This is my hobby for right now, and it's going to be my full-time business later going on. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. We've got some videos. I'll have links in the description below for all of these videos. And this one is from Thomas Sowell TV. I love Thomas Sowell. This man is incredibly smart. And one of the things that he's done is that he's looked at different places around the world instead of just a little box that we call the United States. And he's looked at what's happened with other countries and their programs and their economies and their governments and what's worked and what hasn't. And in this little snippet here, he has seen the rise of Scotland and Japan in contrast to Black America. And this starts off with Scotland and how they were extremely backwards, and it had to do with geography, that they were surrounded by mountains, they were very hard to get to, and so they were kind of isolated. And I've heard him talk about this before with Africa. Same thing. There was a lot of forests, and their rivers were not like those in Europe, where there was a lot of waterfalls, a lot of rocks, extremely hard and fast currents. But in Europe, it's like you could take boats where you could take like Viking ships and you could row them upstream and go loot and plunder. But that also meant that you could do trade. which allowed for the not just the trade of goods, but for the trade of information and ideas. Because the really smart, innovating people, there's not a lot of, but they are there. And whenever you can get these smart people together with areas that don't have this, and they can share their ideas and their innovation or whatever, then it makes everyone everywhere better. Because in this other place gets to use the fruits and the benefits of these new ideas. And that's what we see with these places, is that the places that are open to education and learning, and they're not set into the old ways of doing things, they're the ones that prosper the most. Sometimes it's the fault of their governments, sometimes it's through their location. And he goes on to talk about later with Japan, and that it was kind of a mix of both, because Japan is blocked off because it is an island, but also the government took the stance of we are keeping to the old ways. And then this guy, he was an admiral with the U.S. Navy, said, I don't care, I'm not listening to you, you're going to open up your ports or I'm going to demolish you. And because they had not innovated, they'd stayed so kind of backwatered for so long, they had no choice. They were forced into submission. And with him and what he did came all of this innovation. So they were still living, kind of in robes, and they didn't have anything very much. And he brought steam engines and gunpowder and trains. They brought the first trains. I don't think he did. This was a little later on, but they came and they built the first trains. And now they have taken all of this stuff and they've innovated it, and now they're a leader in a lot of things. Like they copied the British, or not the British, the German cameras here, and then they made their own, and they're the leaders in all of this stuff because they didn't stop. They said, we're going to continue to change. We're not going to stick to the old ways. And some that we're going to, I think a good approach is to kind of embrace both. Because it's not like everything that was old was bad. There was definitely some good things. And I think whenever you're looking towards values, most places usually have pretty good values with how to deal with their people and with their families and their communities. But whenever it comes to work and government and business, it's like, no, that's where you really need to innovate and have an open mind. And you don't need to get set in your ways. You need to expect change. And then he talks about blacks and how blacks just continue to not change. And, I forgot this guy's name. What is this moron's name right here? Where he's a race baiter. Oh, he's in politics today. I'm not going to look him up. It's not Jesse Jackson. What's this fool's name? But that's all he ever talks about. And he talks about how we need to keep embracing the old ways of doing things instead of changing things and looking towards ourselves for change. Let's listen to a little bit of it.
Among both blacks and white liberals, there were those who thought that cultural changes among blacks were unnecessary, that there could be progress without internal cultural change, effects without causes. In the post-1960s world, such views gained the ascendancy, and those who held these views often wondered why it was so hard to raise ghetto blacks out of poverty and social disintegration.
It's like that's such an obvious thing. It's like that's how we spend, every single individual spends their lives by changing. And it's because no one is still acting like a little 1-year-old child or a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. There's some who get damn close though, because they still have the little emotional outbursts and temper tantrums and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, all in all, people change. A lot of it is that you're forced to, because nature just doesn't have things fall out of the sky for you and provide for you. You have to go out there and work, and you have the burden of responsibility placed upon you, whether if you want it or not.
Their answer was usually a call for more welfare state programs, more pride and self-esteem, more steeping in the history of black achievement or white injustice. The actual track record of this approach, compared to the opposite approach in the New England enclaves, received virtually no attention. Fortunately, in the decades before this mindset became fixed, most blacks had become better educated and had lifted themselves out of poverty at a rate higher than that after the Civil Rights Revolution in the 1960s. For example, more blacks rose into professional and other higher-level occupations in the years preceding the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, and it's great. This is something why you should listen to your elders, is because they have lived through more than the rest of us, and they can compare and contrast these things with a clear set of vision. So let's listen a little bit from Thomas Sowell himself here.
Lay out two competing ways of looking at economics and policy, really two competing ways of looking at life that go back at least 200 years, the constrained vision and the unconstrained vision. The constrained vision, I'm quoting from A Conflict of Visions, sees the evils of the world as deriving from the limited and unhappy choices available, given the inherent moral and intellectual limitations of human beings, close quote. So the constrained vision understands itself as constrained by the limitations of reality itself.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, they cannot perceive as somebody do. The good things happen automatically. The bad things are somebody's fault.
Isn't that stupid? Because that's exactly what I see, especially with politicians, that if you just eliminate these things, for some reason, all these wonderful, glorious things are going to happen. It's like, no, it's not. You want the good things in life? It's like they're there, but they require work. They just don't magically happen.
Got it. And then to continue here, the constrained vision, again, quoting from A Conflict of Visions, for the amelioration, improvement of the human condition, the constrained vision relies on certain social processes, such as moral traditions, the marketplace, or families, not government. So explain that. Why do we rely on processes rather than the will of the people instituting changes to improve our condition?
Well, it doesn't need more government. Even for the market to work, you have to have a government. It's Europe discovered when the Roman Empire collapsed and the economies collapsed also.
See, there he goes. He knows about other places in the world, their governments, their economies, even with history here. I mean, and that they're all kind of correlated together, obviously, in order to be able to make these comparisons and then judge what politicians do.
So, but I guess one of the reasons would be that with the government, you have surrogate decision makers, and they cannot possibly know as much as the individuals whose personal decisions have been preempted.
Tell you what, that's the key right there. That's the key right there. These people cannot ever possibly know about what's best for the individuals, what's best for you in your life, or me in my life, or anybody else in their life. How many politicians have you actually spoken to where they actually got to know you? Because you know what? It takes a lifetime to really get to know someone. I can never explain to you my 45 plus years of life in one sitting. It's impossible. It is literally mathematically impossible. We sit down for one evening and have a discussion. It's like, no, that's why you date. It's why dating takes so long. If you want a long-term relationship with someone, you have to get to know them to make sure that their values and your goals all line up. Because people are slick talkers and they lie so good and so well that they even lie to themselves. That they believe the stuff that's coming out of their mouths. I almost said that. I'm trying to refrain from using harsh language. Let's watch this older episode with him where he's on firing line in 1981 with William F. Buckley Jr. as the host. And he's talking to this woman who does not listen to anything, and she's asking another question. But this is one of the benefits of talking to someone who is older and more experienced. Whenever they actually know what they're talking about, how they can rebuttal some of the nonsense that gets spouted off. And so they're going to start talking about minimum wage and young black youths being able to find jobs.
That there are approximately 15% of all homes in which there is only one wage earner. So that when you talk about women being able to take care of things for their married mate, wage earner, the fact is that in the overwhelming majority of American homes, the women also work. And therefore, I don't think your explanation that women have other responsibilities and that's why they are...
Work can mean part-time work or full-time work. Women do not work full-time to the same extent that men. Part-time workers make less than full-time workers.
May I ask a question about unemployment?
Okay, yeah,
the latest figures I saw indicated that of black youth, something like 46% of those who wanted jobs were unable to get jobs. I really would like this time to ask both of you to respond to what would you do?
I have no idea why she's smiling. Every single thing that she has asked and stated up to this point, he is completely demolished. And that's what he does throughout this entire thing, right? This is the last part of the video, and she only comes up for the last little segment right here, and he just blows her out of the water through the entire thing where she's here.
In that situation, if you would assume for a moment that these are people who do want jobs and are unable to find work.
I would, first of all, repeal the minimum wage law, because if you go back to, say, 1950, 1948, 49, 50, you find that at that time, the unemployment rate among black teenagers was a fraction of what it is today. And there certainly wasn't any less racism than there is today. What was different was that at that time, the minimum wage law was a decade old. It was a decade of inflation, and the law hadn't been changed. So for all practical purposes, it didn't exist.
But don't you think it was also a decade of expansion in which there were a lot of jobs, whereas today our economy is in a recession and there are not that many jobs?
If you look at the most prosperous years of the 60s and 70s, you don't find black teenage unemployment as low as it was in the recession year of 1949.
He just, bam! He's an economist. So this is his field of expertise.
Well, I don't know what the job situation was then, but it's only recently that we have...
I was a black teenager in 1949.
Did you get a job? It was a recession
year, and after a considerable looking, I found a job. But the point is, the kid who's living where I lived then, he's living there now, he has a hell of a lot harder time finding that job because there are so many good people who try to do good for him and priced him right out of the market.
Well, priced him right out of the market. Because, he's saying that starting off, just kids in general, they don't have skills. They're kids. 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever. They're kids. They have no experience because they haven't been working. They've been going to school. And so those kids who have no experience, why? If you had a business and you needed work done and you are forced to pay no lower than this minimum wage, then what do you want? You want the most bang for your buck. And it's like, yeah, you know what, kids? I'd like to hire you. Black, white, male, female, whatever. But it's like, your skill set only allows me to pay you like maybe $3 an hour. But with so many of you, we can compensate for your lack of skills because we can just have you working together and making all that up. And that would be really beneficial too because you don't have anything preset in your heads. And I get to put what I want in there to get the work that I want out of you. But whenever it's like, no, minimum wage is actually going to be this. It's like, well, you know what? For that kind of money, I can actually hire this other person who has some experience. They know what is going on. And then I can put them to work and they'll make me, maybe double that. And it's like, I need double that because I'm not looking to break even. I'm looking to make money. And this is exactly what every single person would say if they had their own business. If you had your own business and you don't get it because it just appears and it just happens, because if so, then you would have it by now. Everyone would. But you have to go through the trenches. Your blood, sweat, and tears makes that happen. And you're not going to just randomly decide that, oh, I'm just going to throw it all down the tube because I want to help these other people out, and then stop earning profits and have the business just fold because we're not being productive enough. Let's listen to this one last thing from Thomas Sowell before we move on.
It was a different world. It was infinitely safer.
Now, what about family structure, Tom? Again, according to most black children were being raised in two-parent families in 1960. 30 years after the liberal welfare state, the great majority of black children were being raised by single parents.
Yes.
How does that, by the way, we should note that Patrick Moynihan publishes the Moynihan Report in 1965,
Yes.
and he's alarmed because the illegitimacy rate among black families is 25% then. Now, among whites, it's over a third.
Yeah.
Hispanics, it's over half, and among African Americans, it's over 70%. What's going on there?
Well, this is again. This too, you find the same thing in Britain. You find it in France and Norway. You find it in the Western world.
There he goes again. He does not limit himself just to the U.S. He looks around the world. He's done this consistently throughout his entire life through his professional career here as an economist, because he wants to make sure that the information is correct.
In fact,
The dissolution of the family structure.
there are any number of Western nations where 40% of the children are raised with only one parent, right? At the extremes, compared to Asian countries, at the extremes, Iceland, it's 2 out of 3 children born are raised in single-parent home. In South Korea, it's 1 out of 66.
Holy crap.
Wow. And so,
Wow, and 2 out of every 3 in Iceland, single family. And there's some backwards dumb fools over there. In South Korea, 1 in 66. It's like, well, yeah, you know what? Whenever I think of the Asian community, I think of them as being really well-grounded and highly educated and motivated. And it's like, well, that sounds like that might be an answer, because it seems to be obvious sense that whenever you have 2 parents around where it is both their biological children, that they are going to be more involved and interested in their child's success. That they have studies that have shown that whenever you have one parent that is the biological parent and the other one who is not, that there are more kinds of abuse from men and women alike. It's different kinds of abuse, but it definitely happens. Some of it is the same kind of abuse. So, and it's like, no. You want to screw your family up? Get divorced. Don't be with your baby mama's father or mother or whatever the case is. You'll screw that child up. And it's not that child's fault. Nobody gives a damn about those parents. Those parents made that decision to do whatever it is that they did to get to that situation. They feel sorry for the children. The children had no say in it whatsoever.
that's the welfare state?
Yes,
It is.
You're creating a situation where first of all, you're creating a situation where if the man stays there, the government will not give the woman welfare, and if he leaves, it will. And so they're paying. When you pay people not to get married, more people don't get married.
Yeah, because people will choose the lazy way out. Yeah, so to wrap this up with Tom Sowell, because I want to do more on him, everything that he says is so just interesting, and it's well grounded. It's that you need to embrace change. Don't get set in your ways, whether if it's yourself, your friends, your family, your community, your society, you need to embrace change based off of accurate, up-to-date information. Is what I'm going to build. It's going to be revolutionary in a very positive way. So I'm interested in re-entering the dating world again, I guess more seriously this time. Last time it was, I don't know if I would even call it dating. It was kind of, looking back on it now, I would say it was extremely stupid and a waste of time. Just kind of BS. And I want to correct my ways and make it more substantial. Anyways, I found this. This is the YouTube channel Kevin Samuels, which is his name. The title of this video is 4 Signs of a Low-Value Woman. So he's going to talk right now about a high-value woman.
A high-value woman is attractive and appealing. She has a comforting character. She's discerning and disciplined. She's enthusiastic and exuberant. She's loyal and liberating. That's the definition of a high-value woman. But let me give you the definition of a low-value woman. A low-value woman. And I'm going to change the title of this to low-value woman. Because women that I'm about to talk about right now, I don't care how you look. I don't care how tight your body is. I don't.
Now, the only thing that he does that I don't like is that he is targeting the black community, and he's specifically talking about black women, and that's what he does. And he does say the reason why he does it is because that is his demographics, that are his viewers. So it's like, well, yeah, that is the business way to go. So, but it does apply for all. So.
I don't care how feminine you may be. I don't care how graceful or cultured or whatever. If you do these 4 things, you are a low-value woman.
And I love it because women lie constantly, and they all think they're high-value women. And it's like, the hell you are. You are a piece of trash. You bring nothing but stress and chaos. You are argumentative. You are out of your mind. It's like, yeah, a guy might sleep with you, but there is no way in hell he's going to have a relationship with you. Girls may hold the key to sex, but damn it, it is guys who absolutely hold the keys to relationships.
In most men's eyes. All right, let's see where we're at. 900 people watching. Uh-oh.
Oh, let me skip ahead because he's very confident. He's like, I know what I'm talking about. I deserve all this stuff, and you are going to give it to me because if I'm going to put my time into doing this, then you're going to do some things in return. And it's like, well, that's fair. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit here.
Let's go ahead and get on into this. Number 1, here are the signs of a low-value woman.
He said number 1, and so it's like, okay, and then went back.
4 signs consciousness wrong or foolish behavior. A low-value woman uses these 4 things to control, manipulate, dominate, get her way, check people, whatever you want to start off. And her first thing is shame.
So there's 4 things, and he's done an acronym for signs, the 4 signs, and it's SIGN. And so the first one is shame.
Take a case in point. Let's say some of the things when women come to my channel, here's a shaming tactic. They use shaming tactics. Yo mama black. You hate women.
That's one I've heard many times.
Shaming tactics. Shame, shame, shame. Shame is one of the 4 major arrows of a low-value woman. It's part of a low-value woman's pathology. You cross the board. I don't care what you have on paper. When women operate in these areas, they diminish their value to.
He gives other examples of this, and they'll shame your character. Oh, you're too short. I think one of them he gives is that you have small junk, and he gives others. I'm going to go over this video and many more of his starting on Monday, and it's because it's like I just completely agree with this, and part of this is because I try to be a Christian. I fail horribly at it, but I try, and I'm going to work on doing even better. He knows what he's talking about with this stuff, and it resonates with me because he actually went into it where he was teaching and was a leader in his church communities, because he's roughly my age, and so he moved around some, of course, as most people usually do. And so he was involved with several churches, and so this is his field. He understands Christianity, and he understands male and female behavior and interaction, and this is just his thing. And he speaks truths, and it's not just that. It's just he's also talking about, well, this is what the data is showing, that women are reporting that they're unhappy, that they're single, and they make all these claims and they can't find women. And I tell you what, he has live interviews with women, and he just tears them apart. And he's no joke either, because right here on this one video, he has over 1 million views. He has 1.34 million subscribers, and his target audience is just Black Americans. But I'm telling you right now, there's no way in hell that's all that it is. It's like I've watched this stuff on and off for a little while now, not too terribly long. I'm going to watch a lot more. I've watched other YouTube videos of people who are just, I'm tired of this feminist lie and this nonsense. And of all of them that I've seen, he has been the most articulate by far. It's not to say that there's not merit with the others, but it's just he's the most well put together. He's formulated all this stuff. And I guess part of it too is that he's probably the oldest one by far that I watch. And it's just been his goal with this. Others that I've watched, for example, one of them, he was with business or with IT or something like that for several years and made it really far up there. And he's just kind of recently gone over into this and YouTube, and understanding women and people and stuff. But this has been his, with Kevin here, this has been his thing. So I'll have a link in the description below if you want to watch the whole thing. It is over 2 hours. It's almost 2.5 hours. But I tell you, every time I watch one of his videos, it's like I love the entire video. There's all of them too. And then for the last one, let's go ahead and look into Tim Pool here. Because I tell you what, whenever he's reporting on the news and the lies and how they use buzzwords and they're just BS, where they do this manipulative framing of the titles and all this stuff, it's like he just knocks that crap out of the park. And it makes sense, because that's what he's done for the majority of his life, is been a reporter. And so he gets, whenever he strays off of that, like with conspiracy theories and government and politics, it's like, oh man, conspiracy theory stuff, it's like, I just feel like he's just absolutely wrong with all that stuff. With some of the things in politics, he gets some of that stuff right. He didn't at first, but as he's gotten more involved, his tune has changed some. Like guns, he was really opposed to guns, and now he's got like an arsenal, I think, because he's just like, yeah, I like guns. I've got a lot of them, so I don't know exactly what it is. But here's this nonsense, though, with the Ukraine, and it's just, Well, we're going to get into it.
As the conflict between Ukraine and Russia began to escalate in the past few weeks, many were skeptical that Vladimir Putin would actually invade the country. That was
okay. So you have to be not stupid, but busy. We'll say you've been busy with other things to not know what the hell's been going on with Ukraine and Russia, which is legitimate. I'm old enough though. I've paid attention to the news, and it's like this is nothing new. That there's been issues with Ukraine and with Russia. It's like, yeah, and
one of those skeptical individuals. Even though we had U.S. intelligence reports suggesting that Russia would go into Kiev, the capital, I still said that's absurd. Even only a few days ago, we said Russia going even as...
Okay, I gotta stop because it's like, no, it's not absurd. So the Ukraine has forever, and you can go on Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is not the best, but it's just quick and convenient for the most part. They've had issues forever. So following its independence after the Soviet Union fell, the Ukraine tried to be neutral, still tried to maintain relationships with Russia, but they also did a joint partnership with NATO. And they didn't like it. And I remember Victor here, he was kind of in the pocket of Russia a little bit. And the Ukraine, because it's so damn large, a good chunk of the population wanted to stay kind of with NATO and with the West, and a good chunk wanted to stay with Russia and the East. And so there's been problems with it. And all this, and so from April 2014 until the Russian invasion of 2022, and so what do they mean by the Russian invasion? Or from April of 2022, they're talking about this right here. They're talking about the Russo Ukrainian War. And so this has been going on even before this. This is about the ongoing war for the 1917 to 1921 war, Soviet-Ukraine war. And then there's the Russo Ukrainian War, which is ongoing, an armed conflict that began on February 2014, primarily involving Russia and pro-Russian forces on one hand and Ukraine on the other. And they've been fighting and throwing in soldiers and tanks and bombs and all that stuff forever. This is absolutely, positively not one damn thing new at all. This is not going to spark off World War III.
Far west as Kharkiv, which is still rather eastern, was not going to happen. And now we know we were wrong. Russia has staged a...
No, the only people who were wrong were dumbasses who went out and said, I'm an expert. I know what's going on, though I don't know a damn thing about the history about it. We're going to have World War III now. The hell we are.
Full-scale invasion of the country, and the latest update is that Russian forces have taken the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site. In response to the invasion, we are seeing severe sanctions on Russia from the West, from the US and the UK.
It's not the first time. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. None of this is new.
And I feel I must say we are now facing a very real prospect for World War III.
Shut the F up. The hell we are. Then why didn't it happen any of these other times? Why didn't a world war erupt in the early 1900s? When did they say? It didn't happen in 1917 to 1921. It didn't happen in 2014, but yet somehow miraculously in 1920 or in 2022, it's going to happen. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Here's an economic trade thing going on in 2016. It's like none of this is new. This is just the same old horse that we've seen. I had to go look to see if I could find this old video. There's this comedy skit where it's with Citadel Miniatures with Games Workshop, and they made a change, and they do it all the time. But again, people don't realize it because they're young and they think, oh, you shouldn't do this. And it's like, no, they've been doing it forever. It's been around, I guess not quite as long, for decades, not as old as I am, pretty close though. And it's like, that's all they've done is change. They do change all the time. It's just because it's new to you doesn't mean it's new. It's only new to you. But anyways, they did the skit, and they were talking about how the executives were just screwing things over, and they did. One part of it was they had the executives beating a dead horse. You know, it was just hilarious. I wish I could find it, but it's probably like at least 5, maybe 10 years old now. It's like good luck trying to find it. Anyways,
I hate to say it, that phrase is so cliche and tired because...
Yes, it is. I don't know why you're saying it. Either you're just absolutely stupid because you couldn't do a Google search, which he should, because he is reporting on the news, and it's like, do your due diligence. It's a simple Google search to look into this stuff. It took me like 2 seconds to Google this stuff up. Or if he's just flat out lying, you know, or if he's just doing it for buzz and for clickbait. I can't read his mind, couldn't tell.
Throughout my career in journalism and politics, I should say, political commentary and culture, we have heard of many circumstances in which we thought maybe Israel and Palestine could trigger a third world war. Or maybe the Middle East, maybe Iran outside of...
And this is so stupid, too. It's like he's listing other examples where they thought this would all happen, and it didn't happen in any of these other places, too, and yet he still wants to continue this narrative of we're going to have World War III. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. He says this about China. He says this about Russia. He says this. It's like, shut up. You know, stick with what you're good at, and that is report on these other news outlets and their stupid, lying journalism, corruption, BS. Fantastic work with that stuff.
Of Israel, areas of the Middle East could trigger this. Now, perhaps it is still a bit too bold, but we have not been as close as we are to a full-scale international conflict as we are now.
No, we aren't. You know who's going to get involved with this? Absolutely nobody. You know why? Because you know what the climate is today? Is that whenever anything happens, people turn to the U.S. and say, do something. Whether if it's stuff that's going on in Taiwan or in Hong Kong, you know, all that stuff with Hong Kong protesting. They're waving around American flags, saying they love the U.S. and they want the U.S. to intervene. And you know who got involved with that? Nobody. But that's what everyone does. They turn to the U.S. gets involved, and then that's it. You know why? Because we have all the armaments. I pulled this up before. So here we go. List of U.S. carriers in the world. This is a different list. The U.S. of A, here in the blue, 44%. One country has nearly half of all the aircraft carriers in the entire world. So if we look at China, they got nothing. They have like three. That's all that they have. It's like next to nothing. Same thing with all of them. They have next to nothing. There we go, right here. So right now commissioned, Australia's got 2, Brazil has 1, China's got 4. Ooh, 4. Egypt 2, France 4, India 1, Italy 2, Japan 4. The United States has 20. It's like this with everything. With tanks, with missiles, with drones, with all of this stuff. We may not have as many soldiers, but it's because we don't need to. Well, what is a soldier going to do against an aircraft carrier and all its armaments? If you have 1,000 soldiers, what are they going to do? Whenever you have these long-range tactical strikes that you can bombard an area with, and several areas simultaneously at the same time with aircraft and the fleet that's with them, it's like nothing. It doesn't matter. It's stupid. Russia, one. They have one carrier. And you know what? All these carriers are not the same. Guess who's got the best carriers out there on the field? I wonder who. There's no World War III. This is a bunch of hype, nonsense, ridiculous BS. So this is just fear mongering. I am flat out telling you, there's nothing to worry about. Militarily, there's nothing to worry about. Absolutely nothing. Because with all the presidents and everything that we've had, the U.S. military, yes, it's gone up and down in strength and in size and all that, but it's been relatively minor. We still dwarf the entire planet. Not a country, but the whole damn planet. It's why whenever we had Desert Storm and Desert Shield with Saddam Hussein, who had the second largest standing army in the world, we rolled over them. Here we go, quick little Google search. First Gulf War, Desert Storm is an American military, American-led conflict which lasted between the 2nd of August of 1990 and the 28th of February in 1991. The damn thing didn't even last a year. This is just the time where we said this is when it begins and this is when it ends. The conflict, it was like a couple of months and it was done because they just got steamrolled over. I mean, there are videos where American forces are just hauling, just like this picture right here, if it'll pull it up. They are just driving through with no opposition at all of any kind. They're just, we're taking it. It was a big flex. What we do have to worry about, though, is what the politicians are going to use to be able to turn this crisis into some kind of gain for themselves. Never let a crisis go to waste. And that's exactly what they're doing. They are going to create a crisis here to be able to go into warmongering and to fuel the big war machine, because there's a lot of money in that stuff. Tanks are not cheap. Bullets, they're cheap, but whenever you need trillions of those damn things, it's expensive. Planes and missiles and bombs and feeding and the training of the troops, it's not cheap. It is extremely expensive. And so there is a lot of money and a lot of power and influence with all that. And then, like I was showing in yesterday's video, the news outlets were saying, well, it's Ukraine as to why inflation is so bad. It's like, no, it's not. This stuff that's going on now, it's been going on for years and years and decades. It's like, did it happen all these other times? No. So don't get worried about this at all. It's ridiculous. Live the life you want to. And part of this with Kevin Samuels right here, he's really good about, he's got another portion of his show, which I think, I haven't seen it, but I think because there's, in this one, there's a guy who wants to talk to him because he screens his calls first, and he's like, no, this is for the women right now. And so it sounded like he had another show that he does for the men. And it's like, I hope so. Because I tell you what, I am incredibly down to earth, where I do not need to be the person who is always right. I understand that there are positively people who are professionals in different fields. And whenever it comes to relationships and understanding kind of men and women and their chemistry, it's like Kevin seems like he's got a lot of answers. And it's like, I do not want to go out and to have all of these years dedicated to doing this to figure out the answers whenever he's already done the work. That's stupid. It's like, just share what you've learned. Tell me what the fruits of your labor are so that everyone can benefit. And that's exactly what my website's going to be about. It's going to be about bringing forth truthful, honest, up-to-date, accurate information based off of evidence. Because there's plenty of people like this. Here he is. Him and Thomas Sowell and so many others, where they are just freely giving this information away for nothing. And it's like, imagine if everybody could put it in, and it's like, no, this is an opinion, and everybody's going to be able to say, yep, this is an opinion, here's why, and it gets demolished, or it's, no, this is a fact, this is a truth, and here's why, and it's upvoted, downvoted. I tell you what, for all of you who are watching, you are going to see something great come from this. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to make this stuff happen, and you're going to see it through me and what I do with my life first, and how it benefits me. And for those who want to join in me, it's like, knock yourself out. We will take that ride together. Or if you want to wait, it's like, that's fine too. But we're going to cut it there. This went way too long. We're at close to an hour. So I'm going to cut it off. I'll have links in the description below for all of these videos. Thanks for watching, and probably won't see me until Monday. See you then. Bye.